Welcome to What the Flick, gang. Alonso, Duralde, Jenna, Busch, Ben Mankiewicz, episode 3 of season 5 of Downton Abbey. But I gotta get on PBS because have you noticed how what they call the episodes in the when you TiVo them or in the guide?
No, I haven't.
We're about to review, I believe, season 8, episode 29 of Masterpiece.
Oh.
Like, come on. Jesus.
No one is following that.
No one knows this. Yeah. So, I loved episode 27 of season 7. I thought that was super strong. Come on, man. They're not the same show. All right. So, well, to me, we have a clip here, but I think about this as we show the clip. And maybe this is true of every episode of Downton Abbey. But this seemed to be an episode about everyone knowing their place. No matter what they're standing, they had to know their place in the world. All right, let's take a look.
If I was seduced by a man, I would not let any grass grow under his feet.
Tomorrow I want you to tell me the missing element of your story.
And if I don't?
I'm sorry she wants a child, but she can't have ours, and that's flat.
I can't bear the thought of your leaving.
And if you love me, you'll support me.
Allow me to present Prince Kuragan.
Goodness, Granny has a past.
Downton Abbey on Masterpiece.
Well, yes. I mean, that is kind of the subtext of everything ever.
But I mean, even
Yeah.
but it's that usually applies mostly to the help, you know. But
I
here,
think it kind of goes both ways. But
here, right. But very specifically, like even Cora, like your place is to be my wife, and you're not to have.
Don't have interests.
You're not supposed to have interest or an opinion. Now he's right that was, in a rare moment, there was some truth to what Hugh Bonneville said. Like, it was born out of jealousy. He did say a mean thing out of jealousy, but
And Brixton was flirting.
And Brixton was flirting.
But still. Shut up, Robert. I think is the real takeaway here always. Like, oh my God, shut up!
That's the theme of every episode as well. Shut up, Robert. One of the things that I felt was sort of a theme of this was women breaking out of where they're supposed to be.
Right.
Yes.
Or trying to.
Or trying to.
Right, yeah.
Well, Mary, I mean, she...
Mary did, but still there was this reaction of, again, know your place, what your role is. Yes, but she is. It's 1924.
I know.
Yeah.
We can totally sleep with whoever we want now, which is kind of awesome. But I think that was, like, that for me, that was the biggest thing. That was the thing that really got me. And I think, you know, Violet's reaction to it, like, we are not allowed to be sexually attracted to people unless we are told to do so.
Yes.
Like, whoa,
By our mothers.
oh, that's awful. But yeah, I mean, even Edith, like, trying to have a child out of wedlock and still be part of the child's life. And
do it, right?
yeah, no, you can't do it.
Right.
And Daisy trying to break out of who she is and her math classes and
Right. Meeting that resistance. And
But that actually seems a little more likely somehow. I think she's at least got, you know, Mrs. Hughes on her side, and there's some other things. Again, though, you know, the teacher character is starting to get on my nerves. Not the character, the way she's used. They just trot her out whenever she's going to be a pain in the ass. Like, maybe don't invite her to the reception for the White Russians, you know.
Right after they've been kicked out.
Yeah. Or if you know, custom demands that she must be invited because she's there, have her say no. Have her be like, you know, maybe I'm for once not going to get in a fight at Downton Abbey. Maybe I'll just see myself out.
yeah,
That's good.
I can't quite figure her out and like what she wants. I mean, is she there to be a firebrand? Does she actually like Tom? Because if she does, that's really probably not the way to get him on her side.
Does she love him, or does she just like the idea of him as this sort of symbol of proletariat revolt in the middle of this, you know, like castle?
I think she likes him. I think that exchange as she walked to the car is proof of caring. You know, that you can be whoever you want to be.
Yeah, and I mean, though you know, it's a funny thing.
Guys dig it when girls say that to us. So, yeah.
Noted.
Yeah, I think you guys know.
Yes, we do. But I think it's interesting. I was having a conversation with my dad, who's a huge Downton Abbey fan, and we were saying there's something about, like, I appreciate this character so much and what she's trying to do and breaking people out of where they're stuck. At the same time, I can't warm to her. There's something about, I don't know if it's the actress, I don't know if it's the way it's written, but something is bothering me about her.
Well, there's also something, and my wife thought the same thing, objecting. Emily Bunting, I think is the name of the character.
Yes, Miss Bunting.
Miss Bunting. But like, I mean, politically, I'm 100% with her, and I had no sympathy for the sobbing old Russian oligarch who had sort of, you know, kept his there's 50 pairs of boots on the throats of working millions and millions of working Russians.
Leaving.
I'm not saying she's wrong.
No,
right.
But that said, so even that, like, at the moment that they've been invited to the home that you've been invited to, and you know what's happened to them, you're not dumb. In that
Maybe
case,
let's not talk about the czar. You know, let's talk about the weather. You know,
I'm sorry, it must be very difficult. It sounds terrible back at home. I'm sorry. And then go have some fucking tea.
That's just being a person.
That's being a person.
Yeah, and again, lest we forget, like, she's in the village, and the village is still pretty much run by this family. She should be smart enough to know to try not to make so many waves with them because, you know, they're paying for the school. They're paying all this stuff. Like, you know, she is smart enough to know better, and I feel like the show conveniently forgets that so that she can be like, you know,
They have
Carrie
some
Nation
weird
or whatever.
moments. I mean, the Robert and Mr. Carter debating Carson, thank you, played by Jim Carter, right? Debating where the statue went was sort of interesting in the beginning. And then, like, written by an 8-year-old, we have, you know, I don't think we should put it here. Hey, my boy loves to come by and mourn his dead father on the way as he goes about his business of his usual day.
Yes, welcome, Mrs. Convenience.
Yes, exactly. I was like, oh, well, thank goodness. So the whole rest of the show, I kept expecting that everything Carson said, that within 3 seconds,
someone
would
would
proven
emerge.
by something
I know, right?
his eyes. Yeah.
Yeah, and Carson was, he made me sad this week. So you weren't here last week, but I actually did draw purple hearts next to my notes with Carson and Mrs. Hughes because I was a girl for a moment there. And this week there was a sad face.
Yeah.
Because he's disappointed her.
Yeah,
Yes, he is
he's being kind of douchey about the whole.
I don't think that. I think that ends well for Archie. Well,
I think so.
or
I
ends
think
as well
so
as it
too.
can for a guy shot for cowardice. After, you know, again, like with in World War I, the men shot for cowardice frequently were men who had charged 75 times over a hill into a fuselage of bullets and seen all their friends die and had done it. Like there was no time.
Maybe
when
number 76, they were
right. There's no time where anybody ever said, "Hey, you've done it enough. Your work is done. You did it until you died," or they inexplicably just ended the war one day.
Right.
Yeah, and she did mention shell shock and that we know more about this these days.
Sure.
And
I gotta say, I feel like the whole murder subplot just feels, feels like even they aren't into it. You know, like it's this sort of obligatory, oh, we have to bring this back up again.
Right.
You know.
Didn't we do this?
we did do this.
Yeah. I mean,
We did this
it with him
enough.
getting out for the other thing.
Yeah,
but
how many people can he kill or not kill, you know?
I don't think he killed this guy, but I'm with you because we don't care.
And it seems sort of shoehorned into all the plots. Like everything else is sort of going, and then this happens, and it's like.
And Bates and Anna are interesting characters. I think you could come up with something for them to do that isn't this. You know.
I mean, Bates is the moment of he walks in on the conversation between Thomas and Mosley, and Barrow says to Bates, your best friend Miss Baxter isn't here, and he says something like, why is she my best friend? He falls for it for a second, why is she my best friend? And then Mosley's like, and then Bates is like, hey, you know what, man? I don't give a shit, and I'm not going to give a shit the next time this happens. So I don't know what you're taling about. Don't care. Going to go get some tea.
Not playing.
I forgot. For 2 seconds, you had me, and then I remembered. Oh yeah, you're Thomas.
I know.
But to me, I agree. Like that was this interesting guy. By the way, the cane doesn't need it. It's just this is a prop cane now. He's like, whoop-de-doo.
No, and I'd like him trotted out for more than this because I love him. I really do. I imagine there's going to be something where he finds the diaphragm in the house, and then he thinks she doesn't want to have kids, and it's all big drama.
Oh right,
Yeah.
Right, but then of course because they're there, because they're who they are, she'll say, I would be honored to have a child with you, and then like they'll get past it. They're too good a.
Yeah, it's true.
They're too good a couple.
But that whole scene with Mary saying like, "Here, dude, hide my pot," like that was that really cracked me up.
Right, but that's what I mean. There was just so much of this is what you get to do, and you're right about Mary because the significance wasn't so much that Mary and Gillingham boned.
Yeah.
Right. I'm surprised I went with boned.
I sort of am too.
Yeah. It's that afterwards she's still confident to make the other decision because she's clearly not choosing him, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that seems that she's like, no, I slept with him, and then Maggie Smith is like, oh, well, but there's a proposal. All right, we can live this we can live with, but she's still not. She's
Yeah,
still
it's like
not
she drove it around the block, and it's like, no, don't think
Wasn't
so.
that good? Oh, poor guy.
Well,
Just wasn't
actually,
good enough.
But even more so, it was clearly great. She loved driving around the
Right.
block, but then as soon as she parked it, she was like, I don't need to drive it again. Like, the car was fine. I'll get something more practical,
I kind of like that analogy a lot, actually.
So does that mean Charles is the minivan, maybe? That she
Yes.
gonna wind up
Yeah,
with?
yes.
She got, look, the code word for a woman in love in any television or movie show is flustered by a man, right?
Flustered.
Right. As soon as they're like, well, how could you? Then you're like, oh, well, she wants to spend 80 years with him. Yeah.
I thought that was a really cool moment, too, with her and Tom, where he's like, yeah, no one believes you were sketching. So that's, how was your sketching?
Yeah.
And he's talking about his decision and whether, like, if I support you, will you support me? And if you love me. And I just thought that was a really sweet
That was
moment.
sweet. There was a nice thing. And she was, like, braced when he said love.
Yeah.
Right. And then she was like, well, and then that was her way of being like, yeah, I guess I love you, but I don't want him to go to America. Like, just take up with the rabble-rouser, but there's plenty
Stay
of
in town.
there's
Find another
revolutions to
lady.
fight here.
There's other ladies in town. You can meet one of them. But it's funny the way they put it in that clip that we just saw. It sounded like, if you love me. And you're like, oh, no, you're not trying to make us think that, are you? Because in the show, it obviously wasn't that, but the clip made it seem
Right.
like
Well, that's
right.
Next week on is always. It's
Although-
a bitch goddess, you can't
Yeah.
always trust it.
Although, I mean, it is a relationship that would make some sense. But
I would like
we're
it.
not. But we're not. I mean, it makes sense on paper.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but I don't see those two. I did, my heart went out to Edith when she saw the babies come in the room, and she was like,
Yeah,
can't be part
I guess
of
that's
this.
unsolvable in 1920.
There's really not a lot. I mean, unless
that farmer's wife has a sudden accident.
What's her name? Margie? I think it's Margie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Margie.
Yeah.
Mrs. Drew.
Yeah.
It's run over by a rogue horse or something.
Well, yeah, I was going to say if something, although, it's also possible, because we were saying a couple weeks ago that we see there's sort of a spark between her and Drew, and the wife obviously sees it even though they're not really talking about it. So unless
I don't see that one, but I hear you.
there's a connection, I guess maybe not spark,
Yeah.
maybe
But
more
we
of
know that
connection.
Empathy.
But
Right,
we know that
right.
Mrs. Drew legitimately loves the kid because that was genuine.
Yeah,
my
that was
kid
panic.
has gone panic.
Yeah, and she even says, like, I think last week when we had the conversation about it, it's like, no, I have 3 children. Like,
Yeah.
this is part of our
Why doesn't-
family.
Why doesn't Mr. Drew just tell Mrs. Drew? Like, hey,
Yes.
keep this quiet.
It's a small village.
I guess, but I mean,
Oh.
it seems like Mrs. Drew doesn't seem like the put my husband in a bad situation.
But
Yeah.
she also doesn't want to be stuck in the position of, oh, so I'm raising this rich gal's, like illegitimate kid, and I'm just here to do all the diaper changing, but she's going to breeze in for all the boarding school. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose,
it's not
but
a
it
great,
seems-
not a great position for her to be in there.
No, but they seem like because Mr. Drew is that they'd all be sympathetic to, oh, what a terrible plight. We're not going to punish the kid for this. They seem like good. She seems like a good woman.
Yeah.
But anyway, I did feel bad for her too. Robert with a classic Robert moment. I mean, his guy's obliviousness is unbelievable. Although he was right about he lucked into one with the statue, with the memorial.
Yes.
The memorial
But the moment he was against building the 50 houses, I was like, well, then it's a great idea.
Yeah,
They should
it's
clearly
totally-
do it.
Yeah, I'm not
Oh,
going to
he's
have
a
50
mess.
houses. And Tom's like, this is a lot of money, and we're not taking it.
Don't invest it.
Yeah, but Tom, of course, Tom recognizing how to deal with this and win, unlike Bunting, right? He's
Yeah.
like, well, the decision doesn't need to be made now. Right? He doesn't force you to, but like Robert is like the anger at Richard E. Grant for flirting with ISIS.
Right,
Oh,
yes.
God.
I mean, this
that
guy
just-
just sees a different world. Yeah,
He totally does.
yeah.
And lest we forget the big revelation about Violet's relationship with Prince Kragan?
Yeah, but
Correct.
Rowan, we looked up
Russian dude.
Radesh Rabarsha,
Yeah.
I'm not
The
even
guy,
gonna try
the Eastern Promises guy. I've been calling him the
Yes.
Eastern Promises guy all week.
good actor, really like
Yes.
intense eyes. Like as soon as they can put as much bearding on him as it's.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's nice to see her with a pass. And it was nice to see her completely flustered in
Yeah.
the car. And like, are you going to see him again? She's like,
Well, yeah, I love that Mrs. Crawley is like, after having to put up with all of her lip for these weeks about Lord Merton.
We
Yeah.
argued about this before. What is the Dowager's motivation here? Does she want Mrs. Crawley with the doctor? That's what it seems like.
Well, it started out that she liked the idea of fobbing her off on Lord Merton just to like not have to see her so much anymore. And then when it was pointed out to her that being like the living spouse of this guy who's got all this land would sort of make her outrank Violet, then suddenly Violet starts trying to throw other women at Lord Merton and putting Mrs. Crawley back with the doctor because that's more her station.
Right, but now this week she seemed to be quite content. She seemed to just be like, oh, look at Lord Merton.
Well, they had that tea last week, and Lord Merton is clearly smitten with Mrs. Crawley and really wants her, wants that guiding hand, you know. And so I think she's like, all right, the worst things could happen, and I do like Mrs. Crawley. I don't want to totally screw her over. So this seems like it could be a real thing.
I think she's a gambler. I think she just likes the action.
It could be, yeah.
Yeah, and I want to know more about this history she has with Eastern Promises guy, because from what we know, she was just flustered, and held the fan.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, drama.
They did it.
Yeah, they totally did it. Yeah. I sort of want that to come out.
I was trying, I think I said, I don't think we were rolling, but I think both Richard E. Grant and Rade they both look like Bond villains to me.
They totally do.
They could be different kind of Bond villains, but
they totally do. And the thing about Cora, like the Cora story really struck me this week, and about how she wanted to feel useful and she wanted to feel like she was doing something, and then
listened to.
Yes, imagine that. And it was really interesting. This is the first time we heard her real backstory about how she came to London, and then she's like, I don't know why I'm talking about myself.
Because someone asked. That's why.
Somebody showed some interest. Yeah, and then her great line to him. He's like, "Don't I have a right to be jealous or a little angry when I find out that you were out with another man?" And she says, "You have a right to be angry. You don't have a right to be unjust."
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, do the Cora voice.
I can't.
Sure you can.
It's very good.
Bring the dessert.
That makes me happy every week.
So anyway, it was good stuff. A couple of scenes for ISIS. I always like that.
Oh, ISIS.
So if we could just get the murder subplot out of the way, or the not murder subplot, or whatever the hell it is.
Because again, let's get Bates and Anna, like Anna buying the diaphragm, lovely scene, you know, I'm sure it's fine. You know, and then, but just also the embarrassment of like that Mary's like, you know, you have to do it for me. I can't be seen doing it. You're married, and she's like, yeah, it's still embarrassing, I guess.
Yeah, and then having to run the gauntlet of the drugstore lady in all of her questions.
What a loathsome.
Yeah, I mean, which I like. I mean, that's a scene that's actually, when you look at this show as being about, oh, look how far we've come. Oh, look how far we haven't. That's, in 90 years, I'm sure that's still a thing where women making reproductive choices is like, there's somebody out there going, me, really, why, you know.
Mary is still a huge snot to Edith.
I know, and it sort of feels out of place now.
Yeah,
after everything they've been through.
Sometimes it does kind of like, really, still this?
I feel like such a fool. Maybe that's because you were a fool. Like, hey, almost died.
Yeah.
Like, love of her life, dead.
Yeah.
Alone,
abandoned at the altar. Like, cut her some slack.
Poor woman.
Just don't, you don't have to put your arms around her. Just don't be a giant dick. Right, exactly. But
think the dig, but don't say it for once. You know?
Oh, and Thomas answered an ad, and we don't know anything about it.
Oh, right. Thomas on the phone.
For betterment, like make yourself a better something.
Yeah.
Well, it was some sort of like, you know.
He could use something like that.
It's one of those kind of like matchboxes where you can learn how to like, fix
Draw
these
the turtle
legends or something. Yeah, there's some career opportunity here.
And Jimmy's gone forever, right? We think probably.
I suspect.
From what I have been hearing, yes, but who knows? I mean, he's not dead. So
he's not dead.
he could show up.
I think Thomas is looking maybe to get out of service because he's realizing if he can't even manage the Baxter web anymore, that clearly he needs to move on because his little spidery.
But like where was there even a place in 1924 where a gay man could go and exist at least in a narrow, small world that wouldn't make him feel
I would
ostracized?
imagine more so in London than in Thrisk? Where did they say
all of a sudden, we learn where it is.
Yeah, like they said it
3
twice.
times.
I've never heard it before. Thrisk?
Yeah,
really?
and I would imagine in any place that's a small town.
Forget it.
Yeah, so.
Right, but in London you could,
blend in a little more.
Yeah.
The theater.
The theater.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, it was as always. It's certainly entertaining, and because they don't always end, with Homeland. You're like, oh, it's over. You can tell. But here, you never quite know.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden, you think there's another scene, and then you're like,
yeah, and the cuts are very strange.
Yeah.
And and the music will just stop. Like
Yeah.
they don't end the scene with the music. I'm like,
Yeah.
wait, what did I? Because I've been watching it online, and so it's skipped. I'm like, did something happen? Did
Well,
it skip?
sometimes they'll sort of segue the end music of the episode over the, the Masterpiece Classic logo that will come up, and Laura Linney's talking to us again. You know.
What shit is that?
So, all right. So next week, I'm out of town, and so is Jenna. So either Ben will be here with someone else talking about this, or we'll be back in 2 weeks with an extra heavy double recap. We'll see what happens.
Maybe someone out there lives in Los Angeles. Knows a lot about it.
That might watch the
Wants to
show.
come
I don't
in.
know.
I don't know.
Bert.
All right. Thanks, everybody.